first one?
Would you mind doing the slides for me?
Oh, yes.
Let's give me a shout.
I
Yep. Okay, thanks guys. I hope you enjoyed your rapido lunch. Apologies to the guys in the back again. Really wanted to show the images big. So if you can, there's still some seats around where you can stick around, otherwise watch it on the screen behind. Cornelia's our last speaker in the atomic section. She's, I don't know if anyone's seen her work online, but we discovered it when we were researching the project. Cornelia is a scientific illustrator and science artist, and for 25 years she's been working at the Natural History Museum at the University of Zurich. Most notably, she's been working in the Chernobyl zone, where she collected, studied, and painted morphologically disturbed insects. What she's also been doing is similar sort of work in other nuclear power stations, looking at around areas and discovered fallout areas, and through the analysis of insects, she discovered effects of other nuclear power stations that we doomsday. I should also say that the bookshop has kind of moved from here down to the bookshop downstairs in the dining hall, and Cornelia's got some beautiful postcards and books if you want to go down there and have a look. Please do that, as well as all the other speakers. So that'll be down there. And at the end of the session this afternoon, we'll be heading down there for cakes and drinks and stuff, so you can hop across to the bookstore back and forth, and so on and so forth. And we'll continue the conversation downstairs over tea and cakes. So thanks, Cornelia.
Okay, thanks. My work is, I can say that I nearly stand alone with this kind of work I do, and fortunately there are independent scientists who research mostly in the Chernobyl area. Some of them are in Germany, very little are in Switzerland, and I show this that the independent scientists have a different opinion or a different research and come to different thoughts about radiation, like for example that low doses of artificial radiation is dangerous. We see this with people in Belarus, for example, who live in a low dose irradiated area where the official scientists say these people are not ill because of radiation, but because they are afraid of radiation. It's a psychological problem. It shows that low artificial radiation below the level or the threshold of natural radiation is dangerous. But scientists, the official science says there is a threshold, and below the radiation below this threshold is not dangerous, and the radioactivity that is higher, that is dangerous. But they show it's different. This low radiation below this established threshold is dangerous. We see this now in Fukushima. They say also there is a difference between natural radiation and artificial radiation. Artificial radiation is man-made. Natural radiation is like uranium when it is in the stone and not taken out. It radiates, but it doesn't harm people as much as when the uranium has been taken out and brought up in the air. Next one. It comes about that this independent research brought out 300,000 publications up to date about Chernobyl, but our official science do not take them as evidence, like the, I hope I pronounce it right, IAIA or the WHO or ICRP or these people. They don't take it as, they don't take this kind of research as a valuable research. And today, even if scientists of a university would say that He's researched in low-level radiation, and he would see that there is a danger or any kind of illnesses or so because of that. This person would have to be afraid to lose the job, or maybe get not money anymore for the research. So people rather don't go into this kind of research and keep quiet about it. Next picture. Next one. I want to start with work as a scientific illustrator. My work for 25 years was doing drawings on flies mostly, but this was taxonomic work. Next one. But also, it was in 1967, I was 24 years old approximately, I got the work to do for my professor, and he mutated flies by giving poison into the food. And he asked me to draw these flies, and I could see this is well, it's really like a hole in the whole face. You have this also with people and children. And I tried to find out which part were how disturbed. The next picture I wanted to show, by painting this for myself, how they look when I paint a deformed and mutated fly compared to a normal fly. I had this head, these two heads looking at each other, the red are the eyes. So this sort of work was like an initial beginning for me. Next picture, that when I started to do my research, I had this already painted sort of. And the poison that was used was similar to this poison the US Army used during the Vietnam War to defoliate the trees. And we know that the children looked like the flies in the laboratory. And at the time, during the defoliation and the war, no scientist said, don't do this, this is dangerous, it is mutagenic and we should avoid it. Next picture. Well, this is later in my life. Next. In the early 80s, I had the idea, I can't show it here, but I was working with insects that I found in the forest, and I had the idea that maybe there are deformed animals in certain places. I only didn't know where I would find them, but I knew that in the laboratory there were still mutating flies, and I was painting that one. It is a housefly with 4 mutations. It has the disturbed wings, it has the body that is yellow, the eyes that are yellow, and part of legs growing out of the feelers. And compared to the earlier flies that were mutated, these flies were irradiated by X-rays, but external radiation. And I painted one, a normal housefly. And while I painted this fly, Chernobyl was happening. I also painted, for example, these are eyes of Drosophila flies, but instead of painting them red, I painted them black, just to show these random forms that the mutation is making, and also part of wings that are growing out of the eyes. Then came Chernobyl, and I thought, as naive as I was, everywhere the radiation has come down, we have a situation of a laboratory. You see here how the wind carried the radiation around Europe. In Belarus, it is irradiated because they shut down the cloud that carried the radioactivity, and that is why the southern border of Belarus is completely irradiated. And I started to study the maps. Also, in the discussion with the scientists with whom I had worked for 20 years, I learned that they are not interested in doing any research, not in Chernobyl and not in Europe. This is the reason why I went myself. No, actually we have to go back again. Can we back them to them? Yeah. I just show you quickly. It's in Sweden. It was my first area of research. It is, or it was at the time, the area that was the most irradiated of all Western Europe. At the time, it was impossible to go to Chernobyl. And then I learned that in the southern part of Switzerland there was a high radiation, about a quarter to what was in Sweden, but it was already warmer. This part is on the southern part of the Swiss Alps, and in May, beginning of 1st, 22nd, 3rd of May, the true bugs were already out on the leaves, whereas in Sweden they were still in the earth, you know. So I imagined that the true bugs could be affected by the radiation. And then there is another part, also south of the Alps, in the Grischun part of Switzerland. Okay, now we can go on so you understand the maps. In Sweden, I saw the first deformed insects of my life that live in the normal countryside. And I tried to take up contact with Swedish scientists to learn whether they were making any research, but they thought that the radiation from Chernobyl in Western Europe was so low that it couldn't have any effect, maybe a few cancer cases, but this wouldn't even come up in the statistics. And at that time I was already quite suspect or about official science, and this is the reason why I thought I had to see it myself. I would like to say something about the true bugs. They make a group by itself, and they have larvae that are, when they come out of the egg, when they hatch, they are about a millimeter or even less than a millimeter large, and they have a trunk, and with this trunk they suck the liquid out of the leaves. And this is why they get an internal high radiation when the plant is contaminated. And you see here the feeler that is disturbed. And I found many insects like this. I painted them where I was in Sweden. Next. You see here the same phenomena or growth out of the eye. Next. Or here, this is a larva. You see usually the wings are in one package, and here they are already separated, which means that this insect will not be able to fly away. The good thing that I learned about true bugs, which I already paint for, I painted my first true bug in 1969. You can see how old I am. And ever since I'm just absolutely in love with these insects, and this was also the reason why I stayed with them. But it turned out that they're really good bioindicators. And they also don't fly big distances. They stay actually in the places, and one can look at them generation after generation. Next one. I found also plants. This plant was given to me by a veterinarian, and he said that the flower had been usually pink, and after Chernobyl it had been yellow. Also, I must say that I didn't go directly in the year of 86, because I knew from the genetics that only the children would show if there was an effect. And, next one. Of course, with these insects that have one generation per year, I can show what is happening in our future. This is the southern part of Switzerland where I studied, and I show a few pictures of it. Next one. Like, for example, it's the head and thorax of a Truvada larva, and you see the upper part of the right feeler is yellow. It's probably also soft because the chitin becomes hard when they grow up. Next one. Or disturbed feelers. And the next. And then I had the absolutely great idea that I sample 3 pairs of Drosophila melanogaster, which are the flies that are used for experiences in the laboratory. And since I had drawn them for 20 years, I could draw them by heart. And I thought I grow them in the kitchen with the same food that the scientists used in the laboratory. And I could breed them up to the 4th generation. I always separated the children from the parents, and I had a huge arsenal of bottles, and it stank like hell. And you see here, this wing is disturbed. It's like all grown together. And next one, or this reminds very much on this deformation of the first flies that I painted in 68, 69, or disturbed abdomen and thorax. Next one. You see here the difference between a normal one and the disturbed one. I published this work, and afterwards I was a person non grata in Switzerland. They didn't like me anymore, and I didn't get any work anymore for any university. Next one. I went back to the Ticino a year later. I collected also plants, and I have to say that I'm probably the only one who has a collection of plants from Chernobyl fallout areas and insects, because the scientists were sleeping at that time. Next time. This is from this Grijoun part, which in Switzerland we didn't measure, or the radiation wasn't measured, but when you look at the maps, you can see how it was also irradiated. This is a deformation of the eye. Next one is this is from Italy. It's just next to the Swiss border, way up high in the mountains, and you see a series of deformations. Also, it might be of the chitin, of the material, of the color, various things. As today is found out that not only cancer can be caused by radiation, but various illnesses like for the eyes, for the brain, for the respiratory system, etc. In 1990, I had the chance to go with a group to Chernobyl. Next picture, please. We were at this south entrance called Checkpoint Charlie. We went to Pripyat, to Poleskoye, on Slavutic, which is a town that has been built for the refugees of Pripyat. And I sampled in Kiev. I didn't find any deformations, but on the true bugs, but they looked as if they were living in a slum. Like the surface not shiny and so on. Next one. It looked like this at the time. The next one. This is south entrance, Checkpoint Charlie, and that's where I collected. I used gloves and even protect my nose and mouth. And I found many insects with deformations. In Pripyat, next one please. Like here you see the wings are too small to cover the body. In Pripyat we were allowed only, next one, to stay 10 minutes. And it was, at that time there were nearly no insects, no birds, no sounds except for the music they had from the loudspeakers. This is from Slavutic with a deformed feeler. Next one. I collected leaves from trees. I think they show very well what is going on in nature. This is from Pripyat. It's a deformation of the leg. Important is, for example, when there is no foot, it could be broken off, of course, or eaten off. But when there are the claws growing out directly of the leg, it is a sign that actually it grew like this. And these are some plants from Pripyat as well. And the next one too. It's very small, so small like this. And of course, I look at the forms and I paint them exactly as they are. I even outline them, you know. I wanted to show you some maps because he said it would be interesting. My aim is to make a work that is completely transparent. I don't want to make a commentary on my work. I want to show what I find, and I want to make maps so people can read by themselves what I have found. And this is a part, like a county of Switzerland, and in this county we have 4 nuclear power plants and 1 research plant. And I collected first on these points where the coordination lines cross, which would be like a deterministic system. And I tried to show here like the head, the feeler, thorax with the different colors, that I found those deformations on those body parts. Next one. And then I looked for the wind directions. These are the wind frequencies. These are the annual wind frequencies from these 2 nuclear power plants, which gives some information about where maybe I would find more deformed true bugs. This shows how I went about it, but I don't think we have time. Okay. This shows the wind frequencies from the different nuclear power plants in different colors, and you can see a scale with the yellow. 1 true bug was deformed versus 15.3%, and on every research point I researched 65 true bugs because I knew with 65 I can show if there is something wrong. Okay, if it's white, there were no disturbed true bugs. So you can see there where the winds come overlap, that the radiation is higher, that also the amount of found deformation is higher. But this is only a quantitative talking, but with my pictures I can show the quality of it. Next. Like, I can show the quality of the deformation. I want to show very quickly, this is a German nuclear power plant, Gundremmingen, where the people asked me to come and research. And here you see, I took the kilometers from the nuclear power plant, and we tried to find all around points where we can research, and I tried to find possibilities how to show whether there are disturbed true bugs or not. And the next map, I showed this. The gray is the wind frequency, and the red is the amount of disturbed true bugs I found per research point, and which gives a form. Actually, the wind frequencies you cannot put them on the map. They could be 10 kilometers or 100 kilometers. So what I mostly did was put like like 10% wind frequency I put on 10 kilometers, for example, which is a fictive image, sort of, but it gives an image that I can use and draw on. And when I started off, I had no maps were ever made like this, and for me this is part of the creation of the whole artistic work as well. I think that's this is also a lecture formation from Germany, and I think now comes. We can. Do you want me to skip La Hague?
You've got a couple of minutes.
I've got a couple of minutes. So you can go back to the map of La Hague. You see that I think there are 13 research points. La Hague is like a peninsula, and this Cap de La Hague, and La Hague itself is a 3-kilometer structure, a reprocessing plant like Sellafield, and it is there is a tube coming out here into the sea where the radioactive waste is radioactive water is directly put into the sea that goes to Norway together with the liquid waste from Sellafield. Together you can eat the shrimps from Norway that irradiated because of Sellafield and La Hague, and the reindeer because of Chernobyl. So you're really up to good food like we saw in the movie from this young man, the last movie. Okay, now here I collected 50 true bucks per research point, and I tried just to show with percentage how much percentage I would find of either all disturbances, or you can show the next one, the map. Wing disturbances, thorax disturbances, leg, I can sort of classify from the whole body of the insect what I would find. And this, I think this classification or this showing the maps in this very transparent way that you can read and you can draw your own conclusions from it. This is very important for me, and I think perhaps I think that to draw a map is a very important process for me as well. And of course, in La Hague, the true bugs look awful, even though there is a very strong wind from west to east or east to west. But in the evening, there is this wind stops completely, and then there is a draft that goes down to the sea, and the true bugs look really awful. And the next is, I think, is the last. I would like to say that the debris, part of the waste from nuclear power plants, are the depleted uranium ammunition. It is what the British have used during the Gulf War in the south of the Iran, and mostly the American army not in Iran, in Iraq. The American it makes me sick. The American army in Baghdad, also in Iraq, in the last war. Baghdad is completely contaminated. In Afghanistan, of course, it was already used in Yugoslavia during the war. And I had recently written a letter to Mr. Rasmussen, pleading him not to use any depleted uranium ammunition in Libya now, because they go through these concrete structures. And this is actually the result of our use of nuclear power, because this waste is rather used on people than put into storage. And The children look also like this in areas where the uranium mines are in Africa or in USA or in Australia, and I think that we have to see that the nuclear industry is not interested in human rights, is not interested in health of the people who are victims, and I think only we, the people, can stop it if we really try to understand who is in charge and what is going on, and that we make a decision not only for us to live in luxury or have light as much as we like to, but also think a little bit about these people. Thank you very much.
We're going to grab Paul. Up now. So we're going to move on through to the some cosmic speakers. Paul is. I get these babies off the screen.